Billow Kerrow, good to see you. Good morning. As always, we feel blessed when we see you because we know we are prayed for.
So the elections, man.
Hey, this time is, yeah.
and one of the candidates did say he prayed his way into victory.
You prayed your way into victory, right? Yes, thank you so much. And of course, we're looking at what is on the front page of the Daily Nation the Standard this morning. As you're aware, it is the swearing-in day for the governors today. So, and we were just discussing also how some of these governors are seeking some, eye-popping figures for the ceremony, right? Totaling to 20 million, 17 million shillings, up from 250,000. So we were asking, what is the rhyme and reason for this particular ceremony that only just lasts for 4 hours, yet you spend a lot of money, and we are lacking monies in the counties at the end of the day. But from your assessment, you are in the Senate, and of course you are the custodians of the governors and the counties, as it were. Do you first of all, do you agree with what Patrick is putting on the table, that we maybe need to go back to the 17 counties that had been proposed?
Or we are just
we are past that junction.
Thank you very much. I think we spent I spent in Bomas one whole year when we were drafting the constitution, the mob draft, and I think perhaps what Patrick you miss is that when those proposals were there, it had 3 levels of government. There was the regional government, county government, and then there was down up to constituency level. So there were so many alternatives. But when we eventually, I think, settled for one level of one government at the county, so then it was agreed on the counties, and many other factors come into play. I mean, you live in Kenya, regions, ethnic compositions, community of interest. There are many factors that come into play when you are determining not just counties, by the way, even constituencies. You've seen the constitution, even this one and the previous one. A lot of factors come into play. So I think the sizes, the number of the counties is not our challenge in this country. Is always accountability. It's not about the size. Whether you have one, and we had one government, and still we had challenges of accountability. You make it 47, it will still be the same. You reduce it to 17. The question of accountability cuts across. Really, it doesn't really matter on the size. But I think on this function, the function itself is very important. In 2 ways, in my view. One, it is the first time since the transition to devolved governments commenced 10 years ago that we are having a transition. For most governors who have done 2 terms, to transition into a new to a new county leadership. So this is significant, and it's only the first time that they are actually handing over to another elected governor. The last one was when they were appointed in 2013, and then of course the subsequent one in 2017. But I agree with what you say, that in terms of expenditure, the way our constitution is designed is that there is a county assembly. So that should look at really, because what in essence what the framers of the constitution did is that give the responsibility to determine how they spend their resources to the counties, to the people. I think the whole thing about devolution is about, democracy at the grassroots level. That's the essence of everything here with regards to devolution. So you have a county government that is elected. You have a county assembly that should provide checks and balance, which is also elected. And you have the citizens of that county. So the accountability, that responsibility was given to the people, so that they don't always blame, as happened in the other 50 years, that the national government did this and national government determines for us our priorities and so forth. So some county, I've seen last night, saying they will spend only $250,000. Another one saying they will need 20 million. I mean, everyone. There are people who want to live large, as always. And there are people who are conscious about, the public expenditure. But that accountability rests on the county assembly that represents the people who have been elected to check on their county government, and ultimately also on the watchdog institutions and when there is excesses.
All right.
One question I'd like to ask, and you're sort of in there. Before we came to the devolution, the new constitution, we had local governments. And there was a study that was done at that time to find out what number of local governments, the numbers we should have. And that study was never published because what it found was that a lot of the local or the local governments were completely financially unsustainable. And there was the study was to recommend that a lot of them should be merged. But that was a political minefield in terms of doing that. And and if we do the same with the counties now and start looking at the economic sustainability, right, of those counties, if we do give all the money and the 50% of the national revenue was spread out, would they still be able to sustain themselves? And that is really the acid question. That is 47 sustainable, or should it be 34 in terms of just ensuring that own source revenues, what have you, and everything else are really things that county governments can generate?
But we don't have a law of the media and the passions that is really cast in stone. It can be changed, right? If 47 we've found out in 10 years down the line is not really sustainable, should we now consider, even having the new administration coming in, moving forward to change this constitution to pare it down because it's becoming costly for this country?
I think the question is, which I may not agree with you, is that assumption where you start from that the 47 is costly. In what context are you saying it's costly? I mean, look at the entire look at the structure of devolution. We said every tax that must be collected by this government in this country must be done by national government. So the county governments do not have any responsibility in law under the constitution to collect any form of tax. The only thing they collect is revenues for services provided. And the essence is this, that when revenues are collected at national level, then it can be shared out equitably. That is the essence. Because if you don't do that, you have a situation where a city like Mombasa, because of the port, or a city like Nairobi, because of the industrial base, both of them combined collecting nearly 80% of the total revenue in this country. And so I come from Mandera. My business is here because the facilities for me to manufacture and do things are in Nairobi. I import things from Mombasa because the port is in Mombasa. So we looked at all those things have been looked at. So if you put pressure on the issue of own source revenue, you are creating a situation where your members, the manufacturers and other businesses will have serious problems. You've seen it. Because every county will try and charge some sort of revenue, some sort of tax. Today you cannot send a truck to distribute things to Kisumu. Every county, if your driver stops to take tea and is branded, he has to pay something on tax. So I don't think that is the essence. The essence is the system of revenue collection. Deliberately, we said all of it must be centralized to ensure that equitability. Number one. Number two, because let me just also expand on that. When I buy a bottle of water in Mandera in a supermarket, I'm paying VAT included in it. When my supermarket guy there bought it from Nairobi, where it is manufactured, he paid VAT in Nairobi. So the way the taxation system is designed, mostly for the direct tax and so forth, and the duties, it's very difficult if you say, look, let every county, have its own sources. So there are a lot of factors really that has been looked at into when we looked at this. So when you talk about sustainability of county government, then it's going to be misplaced, because what we are saying is, since revenue is centrally collected in the whole country, then how it gets distributed is equitable. That equitable aspect takes into account the ability of a county to generate revenue is taken into account, and this is why we say the fiscal responsibility.
The revenue.
Yes, the fiscal responsibility, the ability. So the argument has been there. For example, the senator of Mombasa, every time we were changing the formula for revenue allocation, has insisted that, look, you guys, my county generates 60% of this revenue because of the port. I need more. And we said, no, look, if we do it on that basis, we give you everything, then we can't sustain the rest of the counties. I mean, yes, they imported through there, but it's for a factory in Kirinyaga. It's for a business in Kisumu, imported through the port. So I think when you look at all those factors, then the sustainability is not really about the ability to generate revenue. The sustainability is about the money that you are given cannot be the same for all. That's why one county gets 2 billion, another one gets 30 billion. And in between you'll find so many, because it depends on so many factors. So when you look at it in that context, then you know the question of sustainability does not. The last point I want to say is, when we looked at the system, for example, in South Africa, where a similar system is in place, the local governments are there. You cannot do, it's a trend all over the world. You go to the US, every country, local government is about the ability for the people in that particular locality to determine their own activity. So in our case, actually, our local governments are very few, although right now, even with the county governments, you have municipalities and you have cities. But if you go to South Africa, I mean, you go down into provincial governments and you go into, municipalities, you go into very smaller, there are so many. So that the idea is, if you are now in this part of the city, this is a small local council in UK. It's a local council in South Africa. It's a local council in so they determine how to run their own services here for refuse collection, for the roads maintenance and little things, so that you don't wait for the city hall alone. This is why the new governor, Sagacha, has been talking about barrows and so forth, try and change the way, so that you don't centralize everything in one. So local governments, in essence, are also critical, but it's all about the way the resources are going to be equitably shared, so that we don't have the wastage and the accountability, which for me is the most important thing.
And I agree, accountability is a thing, because the amount of money that is set down does not reflect the output that you see.
At the end of the day, but on their plate, the biggest worry now is now clearing the pending bills that is hacking back to 2014. Could we just broaden that understanding? Because it seems there will be, even for now the presidency itself, you are actually now also inheriting this big pie of debt that you need to pay.
Well, the pending bills is corruption. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, the law does not allow both the national government. The Finance Act is very clear, Public Finance Act. There is no room for pending bills in government. You budget, you are you appropriate money from that budget, you get the projects or whatever approved, and the money is allocated to the consulator. What do you call the budget controller?
Yes.
Approves money both for national and county governments on the basis of what has been approved in that budget. There's money, yes. So you are given allocations from Treasury on the money that you're going to spend for that specific project. So what happens is, I get money for this project, for this classroom, but when the money comes to me and that's gone to my account, I divert it now to something else.
Yeah.
So this is an illegality. I mean, everybody knows what in this country that, and I've always said, one of the buck stops with Treasury PS, because Treasury is the one that appoints the county, that appoints the permanent secretaries, the accounting officers in every ministry. They're the ones who appoint the accounting officers in every ministry. So when a ministry has got pending bills, and this is there provided for in the budget, the money has been allocated, but those guys have not been paid after putting up the road or whatever, that gentleman who is the PS in that ministry has no business being there. They can withdraw that appointment as accounting officer. And the same thing, the CEC in a county government has the same responsibility with regards to the other departments and ministries within its county government. So it is a question of really corruption. This one is nothing to do with the law. It's about accountability, and people don't, there's no action. Have you ever seen, the minister has been saying, the CS, the last 2-3 years, that all pending bills must be paid.
Yeah.
But he has never taken any action for those who have not paid.
Even the declaration from the
and those things
president.
are created. Most of them are, many of the times you find fictitious ones that are made. But even when they are factual, I mean, our company 5-6 years ago provided some service to the government. Up to today, nobody has paid. And you keep writing and talking, you give up. I mean, you just waste your money. You try to go to court, it's wasting more money. The system is completely compromised, and so pending bills is an industry.
It's an industry.
It's an industry for making money. Yeah. So
Yeah, it is.
let's wind up on that note. We take a short break. Pending bills is an industry. I like it. When we come back, of course, we shall be looking at the cost of elections on the economy. How has it impacted the economy right now? There's a very interesting editorial cartoon also that has been drawn today by Stano in the People Daily. I need to move on. As you can see there, that the lady is the economy, and you can see 2022 politics. I need to move on. Set me free, right? If you can look at that. Yeah. So we shall be looking at that particular sector. How has it been affected, and why do we have costly elections, yet we're still in this morass? It's not about